Oh my God, it's horse beef. What's going on, everybody? I want to talk about the decline of the UFC. I know I've shit on the UFC quite a bit recently, but I just wanted to bring you guys a little yap session, which is honestly just the bulk of what all my fucking videos are. And this one's no different. And I want to get into that, man, because it was recently brought to my attention by these comments from this very valued member of the horse beef community, right? A huge beefer. Man loves beef. He loves that shit. And he let me know that the PFL is actually pretty solid, and I wasn't really aware. The only PFL card that I actually went out of my way to watch in recent memory was the Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov fight, and that was a very high-level fight, which, I guess as UFC viewers, we're supposed to believe that the UFC is so far ahead of every other organization, but Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov is super high level, and I went back and I watched every fight from the past round of the current tournament that the PFL's been putting on. And these dudes bang every single time. Almost every single time these dudes fight the PFL. It is an entertaining scrap. The roster of fighters on the PFL is very underrated, and I wasn't privy to it until recently. But now I'm starting to realize, man, that we've been being sold wolf tickets for so many years now, being told that the talent pool just isn't the same elsewhere, because to that point, the UFC's talent pool has been regressing and regressing and regressing. You see the PFL and the GFL, like the GFL, their whole business model, we get it. They take the old fighters with the big names, let them probably go on steroids or TRT or whatever, and then just let them bang it out, right? That business model makes sense. It's failed before, but let's see how it goes this time. But with the PFL, they seem to be more selective with who they're actually recruiting as opposed to the UFC. And that's mostly in part, like I said, due to the Dana White Contender Series just flooding the roster with a bunch of, I guess, quote-unquote undefeated prospects who have actually just fought cans their entire careers. They get into the UFC and they get exposed, and it's happening over and over and over again. It just happened again recently. The most recent card, I know Torres Finney didn't get fraud checked, but I think everyone realized this genetic freak. This guy is a freak genetically. Look at the size of this dude. His legs, his back, everything. He looks like he should cause destruction. He goes out there and he uses those genetic gifts to hug his opponent for 3 rounds. Right? I don't even want to see the dude fight ever again. Don't give a shit. Guys like Peyton Talbot, Gurule as well from this past card. And losses to Ode Osborne, who was on like a 3-fight losing streak and on his way out of the UFC. Man, and he looked levels below, dude. That's why I'm saying. All of these dudes coming from the Dana White Contender Series, undefeated prospects. Oh my God, they're undefeated. But they're only undefeated because they're fighting cans, right? And now Peyton Talbot, he went a little bit further than that. He actually won a couple of fights. But it's been happening so frequently, and it is putting into question the legitimacy of these undefeated records that are coming into the UFC. And to me, kind of appears like a desperate attempt from Dana White and the UFC brass to try and fish for this new star, right? Just bring any undefeated fighter that you can find onto the roster and hope that they turn out to be half decent. But as we've seen recently, it's just not happening like that. Like, how many Dana White Contender Series alum have we actually seen go far in the UFC? Like, we can mention Sean O'Malley there, of course, right? He's probably the biggest success story, right? Jamal Hill got pretty far with it. Mauricio Rufy as well, Jean Silva, they're showing themselves to be quite good, although they haven't exactly fought the highest level competition in their respective divisions, but they've shown a whole lot of promise, and I can't take anything away from them. They've looked great. But I just feel like it's leading to such an oversaturation and a regression as far as skill. But it also seems to just all be in pursuit of quantity, just as many cards as possible, which means that the UFC needs to have as many fights or fighters on the roster as possible, right? Because these fighters, like the whole roster, is extremely inactive to begin with, right? So if the UFC had a similar size roster to the PFL, right? Because the PFL roster is about 70-something fighters. Meanwhile, the UFC is over 500, right? Pushing 600 fighters, right? And so obviously the UFC puts on many more cards, so they need a bigger roster. But I feel like it's gone overboard to the point, like, we don't need a card every week with these shitty fighters on. It's like shitty to watch. Like, of course they're professional fighters and they deserve the respect for that 100%. But a lot of these fighters are not even good to watch, and I feel just it takes away from the UFC. It takes away from the UFC stacking the roster with a whole lot of cans, quite frankly, dude. Cans. Chris Moutinho was signed to fight Sean O'Malley, by the way. He was signed to step in to fight Sean O'Malley, as if the UFC could not go and find any other bantamweight that would take that fight in short notice. They had to go and snatch somebody from the regional scene in order to be a punching bag. It's crazy because I honestly, at this point, I seriously don't believe that the UFC is far and beyond every other organization. Like I said, Paul Hughes versus Usman. Like, Paul Hughes could step into the UFC right now and become a top 5 lightweight, I believe, with the skill set that he displayed in that fight. And same thing probably for Usman as well. I see no reason why they couldn't. And to support my point of the UFC's skill level regressing, I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that the new guard seemingly cannot break through in most divisions. Obviously not every division, but most divisions we're seeing these cases where the old guard just maintains their spot. And I think that has to do with, number one, fighters not fucking fighting. Like, fighters are so inactive nowadays that we see no movement going on in the rankings because we just don't have the opportunity. But look at flyweight. You have Pantoja's been around for a while. Moreno, same thing. He's a flyweight veteran, flyweight legend again at this point. Royval, Albazi's kind of new a little bit, but at the same time he shouldn't be there in the first place because Kai Kara-France beat him up. Tatsuro Taira, he's an example of someone breaking in, but he did that by beating Alex Perez, who shouldn't even be there to begin with. I don't know how Alex Perez is still maintaining that spot. Like I said, Manel Kap's been around for a good few years now. Almabayev is kind of new, but just got beat up by Manel Cap pretty bad with Guy No Tits. Steve Erceg got pushed up the rankings very quick, but he's number 9 after beating Matt Schnell. A bit strange. Tagir Ulanbekov, he barely fights, right? Tim Elliott, old dog, dude. Bruno Silva's kind of new. Tamirov's kind of new. Joshua Van could potentially make a run. Kaya Sakura's only there because he's Kaya Sakura. He has not won a fight in the UFC. So there you go, man. Flyweight, similar situation. Merab, and of course, like I said, with the old guard not being able to break through, the average age of the of champion is also increasing, right? It's steadily increasing year over year. I think it's in the mid-30s at this point. What the average age of a champion is. I think it's like 32 or 33 years old, as opposed to like 5-10 years ago. It used to be in the late 20s. So I think that also does support the point that the UFC level is regressing. At least the new talent coming in, the standard has been regressing, as I said. But you have bantamweight as well. Like, Sean O'Malley's been around for a long time. He's young, but he's been around for a long time now. Merab, same thing. Peter Yan, same thing. Umar is a different case, but like I said, he's only in that position because he was pushed so quickly. He became number 1 or number 2, number 3 ranked contender because he barely beat a newcomer to the UFC and then was pushed all the way up the rankings for a number 1 contenders fight against Corey Sandhagen. So yeah, like I said, man. So a lot of the cases of these younger fighters actually breaking into the top 5, it's only happening because they're pushed up so fast and they're fast-tracked. And yes, they do rise to the occasion, but then when they get the title shot, we see what happens, and we saw that with Merab versus Umar. Corey Sandhagen, like I said, been around for a while. Got the 37-year-old Davison Figueiredo, who moved up a weight class and is now in the top 5. Song Yadong, who's still a young prospect, kind of, but he's kind of been passed around the division. I'm not even sure how he's number 6. Marlon Vera, long time. You got the veteran Rob Font, once again, just... he did not fraud check John Matsumoto, but he did beat up Matsumoto a bit. Henry Cejudo, still ranked number 9. Mario Batista, let's not speak. Jose Aldo, the guy's like 67 years old at this point, still there. Kyler Phillips, okay. Marcus McGee, all right. Zahabi, Montel Jackson, like these are younger guys who could potentially push up the rankings. The only one there that I see actually breaking into the top 5 is maybe Marcus McGee. But then, yeah, featherweight, similar situation. Brian Ortega is still there. Calvin Kattar is still a ranked featherweight. Dan Ige, fuck, man. Aljamain Sterling moves up and he's ranked number 9. Josh Emmett, 40-year-old Josh Emmett, or Arnold Allen. Even Yair Rodriguez has been around for so long now. And this division, the 145 division, was essentially run by Volkanovski and Max Holloway for the longest time, and they're still ranked number 1 and 2 in the division. Ilia Topuria vacating the belt. It's bad and good for the division at the same time because him vacating it means that we can potentially see somebody come into the forefront and set their legacy as the new featherweight GOAT potentially, because Ilia Topuria doesn't want to stick around for long enough to establish himself as the featherweight GOAT. I think he's just looking for GOAT status straight up. But at the same time, whoever becomes champion next, there's the asterisk, and you have to ask yourself, well, would they beat Ilia Topuria? Yeah, probably not, right? And I think that goes for most of the division. So the featherweight division is just, I don't know. For me, there's just no stakes, but I'm excited for the title fight coming up this weekend regardless. We move on to the next weight classes here, dude. Lightweight, I don't have to speak on it. Arman Sarukian is the only one of the young guard who's actually broken into the top 5 recently and has established himself. Bilal Muhammad, I think he's like a 35-year-old champion. Sean Brady is a new one as well. Shavkat Rakhmonov, he barely fights. Leon Edwards, the fact that he's still ranked number 3 is crazy. Usman is just squatting at this point, right? JDM is good. Joaquin Buckley. So welterweight is definitely an exception, and I think same goes for middleweight because you have Imavov on the come up. Sean Strickland, he's not new or anything, but he has arisen in the last couple of years as a real middleweight contender. He's not exactly a prospect, though, but Chimaev is now on the come up and will probably fight Dricus du Plessis next. Dricus du Plessis and him being champion in general is also good. It's great for the UFC because I think he represents the next level. Despite the memes, like Dricus du Plessis is extremely skilled. He doesn't get enough credit for it, and he's just so well-rounded. And yes, he is a modern-day mixed martial artist. He represents that for me. Him and Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev. Then, light heavyweight, we do have Magomed Ankalaev there. Then you have guys like Yuri Prochazka's been around for a little while now, since early COVID days, which is cool, though. He's beaten everybody except for Alex Pereira, so he deserves it. You have Alex Pereira himself, who's there. He's arisen in the last few years, but he's quite old. But that doesn't really come into play. But then Carlos Ulberg, right? He arguably didn't even fucking beat Jan Blachowicz. He won that fight with tippy-tap inside leg kicks. Don't give a shit. Don't give a shit about Carlos Ulberg. Jamal Hill as well, like the fact that he was even able to break into the top 5 ever is pretty crazy to me. But Jan Blachowicz is still there. Rakic gets passed around by all the top contenders. Khalil Roundtree, I don't even know how he got number 7 ranked to begin with, to be honest. Who did he beat? I don't even remember. Nikita Krylov's been around for so long. Volkan Ozdemir is still number 9. Johnny Walker's still number 10. I love Dominic Reyes, but he's still number 11. Mirzakhanov, of course, he's not exactly young, not old, but he is an undefeated prospect, and he is quite good, right? And then you have Guskov, who's good. He's okay. Alonzo Menafield is still ranked. Anthony Smith is still in the rankings. What are we looking at here, man? What are we looking at? And I won't even really entertain the flyweight, strawweight, or whatever female divisions because I don't pay enough attention to them. But even if you look at heavyweight, you have John fucking Jones up there, and the only reason why he is up there is because he got a layup fight against Stipe to defend that title. And of course, yes, he went and beat Ciryl Gane, but Ciryl Gane, like I said, he's still number 2 ranked. And has only maintained that slot because of a horrible robbery victory over Volkov last time out, right? Tom Aspinall's been around for a little bit. He's still holding the interim strap after close to 2 years now. Absolute nonsense. Volkov has been around for a long time. Sergey Pavlovich has been around for a good bit as well. Blades, Almeida's a bit new. Spivak, though, Tabora, old dogs. Derek Lewis, still number 9. Tuivasa is a number 10 ranked fighter. How the fuck is that possible? But then, of course, you have Shamil, Mick Parkin, Acosta, those guys, Taliesin Teixeira, Kennedy, and Nezuchuku making their way up. But still, man, that top 10 is pretty much only comprised of old dogs. And that's why I just don't buy it when people say shit like, oh, the 155 division is so stacked. It's the best division we've ever seen, so violent. Like, I agree with the violence factor, but if the 155-pound division was so talent-rich, then we would have more than just one exception, Arman Tsarukyan being able to finally crack the old guard. These dudes are close to retirement, dude. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, these are people who have weathered careers. They've been in war after war. Dan Hooker is still making strides, and improving his standing in the lightweight division after all these years, after all of these wars. But it also, like I said, has a lot to do with the fact that these dudes don't want to fight, it seems like. Nobody wants to fight. And now this is a bit of speculation. I can't say for sure, but I think, what we've seen with Jamal Hill, John Jones, and all these fighters having these social media meltdowns after fights, I think it has a lot to do with social media, because social media has ruined people in general, right? It's why I try and stay off social media. It's why I'm not on Twitter and all that shit. I visit shit like Twitter very occasionally so I can get certain news, right? Or screenshot something to include in a video. But I do believe that despite how mentally strong you have to be a professional fighter, we've seen kind of chinks in the armor arise, and I really do think, I genuinely do believe that these fighters have been affected by it over time, and you can see it even the way with Islam Makhachev speaks, and the way that his fans parrot what he has to say, right? In his rationalization of why he shouldn't fight Ilia or why Ilia doesn't deserve it. Is, I already gave a chance to this featherweight, and if I beat another featherweight, you're just going to say, you just beat a featherweight, you defended against another featherweight. That's only because of public perception and because he saw like 1 or 2 comments taking away from him, as if these fucking idiotic fans wouldn't say anything to take away from him. You know what I mean? But it's true though. I feel like social media pressure has caused fighters to regress mentally, and they're kind of fucking soft now. They're just afraid. Like I think back to like the Pride days or early UFC days, and I'm thinking about Dan Henderson. And what if social media existed back then, and fighters like Dan Henderson were getting ridiculed every single second, or Tito Ortiz, or these guys? How would their careers have panned out? Would they have panned out differently? Because I have such a hard time imagining them being prima donnas, because they never were, by the way. Like, old fighters were not fucking prima donnas one bit. They just fought, and they fought anyone multiple times in one night at times, and that's exactly why their primes didn't last as long, right? Because you got fighters like Shogun Rua. He essentially peaked at like 28, came to the UFC, and he was pretty much like a 40-year-old man at the age of 29, because this man fought so often, and his body was just broken down from fighting in Japan under Pride. Dude, I'm telling you, man, fighters now are absolutely soft in comparison to how they were back then. Obviously, compared to your regular everyday individual, or even like your regular everyday gym goer, obviously these fighters are far more mentally strong than these people. I'm not trying to insist that they're soft mentally, and I'm some kind of a hard man in comparison. No. But I do believe that these fighters have gained a bit of a, I don't know, like a bit of a diva mentality. It seems like they all overestimate their worth. They're all trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to fight the champion. Like Charles Oliveira picking and choosing his fights, being annoying. Islam Makhachev talking about, I'm going to wait until May. Listen, I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if it's true if he really is going to wait until May to see how that fight pans out between Bilal Muhammad and JDM. But if that's the case, and then what? The title picture is just iced out. And I don't even understand the rationalization of waiting. Because if everybody has to fight each other to determine who gets to fight you, then who are you fighting exactly? Because no one else is fighting each other. So who's Islam fighting? That's the question, right? And it's just so annoying having to go through this rigmarole every fucking month now. It's like UFC 300 was just the last hurrah for the UFC, because since then it's just been such a steady decline. And I'm not saying that Islam is ducking anybody. No, but he is being selective with his matchups because of the fact that we were talking about him fighting Justin Gaethje, because Justin Gaethje beat Rafael Fiziev, who he had already beaten, and coming off of like a year layoff. Dude, what's going on here, man? What's going on? It's nonsense. And I've already spoken on the Islam thing, so I won't get too deep into it. And I don't think he's a duck, like I said. I don't think he's a duck. I don't think that he's ducking in the same way that John Jones is ducking. But I do think that Islam is allowing this public perception to sway him. And I just think that's weak shit. I think it's weak as shit, man. I really do. I think it's weak. But to play devil's advocate against myself, wouldn't it make sense, though? Because I try and put myself in the shoes of someone like Islam Makhachev, for example. And I'm thinking, you know what, man? If I was in his shoes, maybe I'll do the same thing. I'm watching Dana White blowing $1 million at a fucking poker table every single night, or $500K, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Giving the Nelk boys a fucking Rolex watch for no reason, and then you're paying this dude $12K to show, $12K to win, whatever. We miss out on the Artem Vatikov signing because you can't bend the rules, man. Sorry, this is what we offer all the Contender Series guys, as if Artem Vatikov, or whatever the fuck, however you pronounce his last name, is anything like some random Dana White Contender Series alum. Really? We're gonna, like, it's so ridiculous that we could have had Artem Vakhitov, and the UFC fumbled that so hard, and now he's fighting Rico Verhoeven. Like, such a fumble from the UFC. He's probably making infinitely more money to fight Rico Verhoeven. It's so crazy that they even fumbled that. Like, the audacity, the arrogance of the UFC to offer a measly like 10K to show, 10K win, whatever it is, 12K, I don't know the exact model, but the audacity to offer that to Artem Vakhitov is just so insane, man. Like, at least offer him 100K to show, 100K to win. I think that's at the very least what he deserves to be paid, and maybe that would have enticed him enough, but I believe he's going to be making even more than that to fight Rico Verhoeven in glory. I believe so. And then we get into TKO, dude. The whole boxing thing with Turki Al-Sheikh. I am not excited about TKO boxing. You look at the pay structure. The pay structure is nonsense. The only shot that TKO boxing has to establish itself as any sort of legitimate organization is to grow its own stars. It has to grow its own stars, because you're surely not going to entice any established boxer with a pay structure like this. What is the incentive to leave whatever organization you're with as a top-ranked boxer, a champion, whatever, making all this money, making big money, and then what you're just like, you're gonna take a massive pay cut to join TKO boxing? No, I don't think so, man. So the only way it will be successful, the way I see it, is if they're able to actually grow their own stars from the ground up. That's the only way, but that'll take years, man. So this is an investment at the very least. So I don't know. I think we have a long time to wait before the UFC or TKO or any of these like powers. Like, listen, power slap we won't even get into because I hate the existence of it so much. I don't even like to acknowledge the fact that it fucking exists. But yeah, man. Everything to do with the UFC right now is faltering. It's losing me. I feel like it's losing a lot of you guys too, man. I see it. I see the numbers and in the MMA YouTube scene, people aren't as engaged as they once were. And literally all it takes, and I know this because people are so reactionary nowadays, all it'll take is one big announcement and everything changes, of course, and I'll shut up. Believe me, I will shut the fuck up about this issue. I will. But believe me, I will be watching PFL from now on, and I am kind of excited for the GFL, and I will do my very best to cover different organizations because the UFC just ain't doing it for me as much as it used to these days, man. But I'm hoping and I'm praying for a turnaround, and I think it's on the horizon, I believe. I do think that there will be a big card this year that gets everyone galvanized, but then what happens after, right? Because what happened after UFC 300? All the steam was lost, and now we're in the situation we are in right now. You know what I mean? So I think we get Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria on a card. We get fucking DDP and Chimaev maybe on the same card. Then what's next? Right, I think then after that the UFC continues its decline, and we're back in the same situation once again. But I hope I'm wrong. As a fan of MMA, as an avid watcher of the UFC, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope you guys hope I'm wrong as well. Because god damn it, I don't want to be right about this. But thank you guys for watching as always. Thanks for listening to me yap. I just wanted to just talk, really. At the end of the day, just rattle some thoughts off. I didn't prepare anything for this video. I really just wanted to chat with you guys, and I want to open up the dialogue, and you guys let me know in the comment section below what you think about my video, whether you agree, whether you disagree, whatever it is. I don't really care, man. Just let me know your thoughts, and as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.